Hello? There we go. Okay, so I think this will do. This will be a little bit better. At least the little line is a little larger than before. Hopefully this will... I'm trying something to get rid of the buzzing. Unfortunately, that includes turning off a computer. And that's decided that it has to install an update because this is the age of Microsoft. Okay, so let's see what sort of things we can do. I want to look at this. I want to put together this Denializers, or Denialism Denializers, I guess I put in the title here. Doesn't really matter very much. So I want to use this. I think this should be a blue elector. I went through a couple of phases on that. So what does that mean? That means more or less that, well, you know, I was listening to a podcast, an old podcast, not a new podcast, but it's still, the podcast is still around. It's just that it's changed a lot in the intervening years. Most importantly, one of its co-hosts left, and so now that podcast is only is only one person, and it's only interviews. So it used to alternate between interviews with two co-hosts asking questions to just those two co-hosts talking about things. So one of those co-hosts was a philosophy professor, and another is someone who runs sort of critical thinking. I'm not sure if it's critical thinking, but rationality. Seminars or classes in the Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area. I don't know, maybe she goes other places, but she's sort of, I think she's based in that area these days. So I listen to them a lot. So they're my current podcast. I've got a long commute when I go into work. So when I go into work, I listen to maybe 2 or 3 of those podcasts a day. Just because they're hour-long podcasts. I usually skip the end, which is their book recommendations. Well, they're not just books, but mostly book recommendations. And basically, I mean, I listen to them every day now, or every other day, basically. And, sometimes they're guests, sometimes but mostly they're guests, get a little bit annoying. And that's sort of depressing. Now, this particular guest that I was listening to from a podcast from years ago was critiquing denialists or something like that. And, he didn't really have a particular... Actually, I should have looked up what he looks like so that I could draw this guy looking a little bit like him. So this particular guy was going about his denialist, or, whining about the denialists. People saying things like, they don't trust him on global warming or on religion or on whatever, right? So, that really just got me going. So, I understand, being somebody in this category myself, how you feel about your expertise. But a lot of people, like this guy, like sometimes one of the co-hosts, the one that left, Massimo, sometimes they seem to think that their expertise allows them to make decisions for other people. And that happens a lot with, say, global warming. So people have decided that they get to make other people's decisions for them because they think they have the right answer for everybody. And especially with climate change, that a lot of those right answers existed prior to global warming, prior to climate. Actually, from the last graph I saw, prior to when they're saying climate change really started. So a lot of the sort of Ludditeness that is in that group of people. Although a lot of times that Ludditeness, it's not really Luddites, but I mean, we don't have to go into the whole history of who the Luddites were, but it's not really, they're not really Luddites because, and this has been true ever since I've been around, right? There was an old, I think it was Larry Niven book, right? I'm not sure, that criticized people like that. I mean, really, what they want to do is they want to keep, usually, a bunch of these things for themselves, and anything either that they're not using personally, because maybe they live in New York instead of, I don't know, let's say LA or Dallas. They think people should not have, and they think other people should make the same choices they did because they're so awesome and you're so stupid, right? This is a lot of the left-wing view is they're so awesome and you're so stupid, which of course I get from a Blackadder episode. So yeah, there was this Larry Niven critique of this kind of critique of people. Not really that way, but I mean a little bit of it coming out. It's the same people, the same sort of experts who've decided that you can't have an SUV, but they can have a private plane. Because, you just don't understand. They need one. But they understand you. You don't need one, right? You don't need an SUV to cart your kids around. But, man, they need that private plane to be able to get to Bermuda, their house in Bermuda every weekend. So, yeah, I don't remember what this book was called. It was a really horrible book. Well, it wasn't horrible, but it had sort of a horrible premise because the premise was more or less science fiction fans save the world. And science fiction fans, and don't tell this to me when I was your age, because I was and am a science fiction fan, but science fiction fans are sort of the stupidest, worstest people in the world. But, when I was your age, I thought, because I was a science fiction fan, everybody else in science fiction was just as smart and amazing as me. And that's sort of the way, and that's true for a lot of people, actually. They don't actually meet the people that believe the same things they do. So they think that the people that believe the same things they do are all these wonderful people just like them, and maybe even their friends, usually. Right? Actually, my friends were all perfectly reasonable people, even the ones that weren't that smart. They were still pretty, they weren't comparatively smart, but they were smart. They were smart compared to the regular human beings. But we sort of had this idea that all of the people that were interested in the things that we were interested in had the same sort of interests or had the same sort of level of intelligence. And it turned out that is not true. Right? So it would be weird if it were. And if you don't believe me, just go to a skeptics convention and notice how stupid all those jerks are. Right? I mean, if you want to figure out that atheists aren't smarter than theists, go hang out with some atheists, which is something I did in college and cured me of that notion. And yeah, even though they're in that top 30%, well, better than top 30%, because this wasn't a super great college I'm thinking of here, but it's not on the top. It's not in the bottom half, right? It's not in the bottom quarter, so it's much better than the 30% just to get into college, and even in that case, people aren't so smart. Let's see, we'll have another one here with another sign. Smaller one, I guess. That one, ponytail, maybe. So here I was once again checking these things out, and I found out they weren't so smart. So I was listening to the podcast, and the guy was just getting on my nerves, and I thought, well, these are a group of people that I hear a lot from, right? I hear a lot from people who've decided that because of the people they've chosen to listen to, right, they are smarter than the people who've chosen to listen to other people, both of whom consider themselves experts, right? So we have two groups of people that have no expertise and really aren't very good thinkers running around complaining that the other guys are a bunch of idiots. Because they don't think as well as their guys, right? Which I guess is completely reasonable. I mean, that human beings are tribal animals, and so we're going to end up with that sort of belief often, right? Our guys are one thing, your guys are another thing. But with the people that call them things like skeptics or free thinkers. I think it was a free thinkers club I hung out with in college a little bit. That was one of them. I also tried doing the ACLU. Oh man, that was a mistake. Oh. Okay, my drawing has dude and monkey here. However, the dude sign from the bathroom, right? You will notice that it's that dude sign from the bathroom. If I just do that, right? You will be able to figure that out with your brain, even though this is cut off. This one would have been, no, there's still bunches of stuff there too. So we'll do that. And we'll put the monkey. I don't like that monkey. I don't really like that monkey either. I don't like any of the bathroom monkeys. So, I mean, if you're a monkey, what does your stall look like? Right? I don't know. I don't know what stall what would a monkey look like for a bathroom stall? Could be a boy monkey, could be a girl monkey. We don't care. We'll have to give him a tail. And since he makes that kind of turn like that, do this. I think we will, let's do the legs out like that. Right. If I listen to somebody like Jonathan Haidt, should make very explicit that I do think evolution is a pretty reasonable theory, and all of biology basically takes it as given, and it makes more sense than anything else out there. So it's a perfectly scientific idea, whereas all competitors are not. And actually, even by phrasing it that way, I think I've probably gotten in trouble with everyone. That is, I basically said that I believe in evolution, but I said it in such a weak fashion that I'll probably get in trouble with everyone. Okay, so there we go. We've got our skeptic, or as I'm calling him here. Oop, this is not good. Do I have a better pen? Because this guy's dead. You don't like that pen? I'll have to run off a second. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find these pens anymore. I actually like them a little better than Denialism Denializers. Maybe I should just call them Denialism Denialists, but you never know. You never know. Okay, so let's see. But yeah, there are quite a few of these people, and there's still a bunch of these people, right? And there always have been. And like I said, mostly they're pretty stupid. Mostly they're very ignorant, stupid people with college degrees that don't realize how fucking easy it is to get a college degree. I mean, literally, you don't have to do any work in college. And if you do, you probably don't belong in college. Go and get a real job. Right. So, college is this great place where you get to learn all sorts of things, especially the things nobody's told you to look up. Don't see enough students like that. Probably never did. But at least when colleges were just for rich people, those rich people, those rich kids, they already knew the reason why they were there was because they were rich. wearing glasses. I don't know why, maybe just because I wear glasses. Lots of kids with glasses on these drawings. And I'm going to make sure that he looks like, as a skeptic, he doesn't know anything about personal grooming, which is also something that is a little alarming. Much too common. Right. For people who decide that they're better than you because of who they decide to believe, there is a tendency to not know enough people to have figured out what bathing is yet. All right. And it looks like I've chosen to make this guy dark-haired, which is fine. In order to symbolize the fact that he thinks that these people aren't really worth of existence, I'll put I am going to make them completely featureless outlines. So hopefully that looks like a ponytail. It's like a 1950s Bobby Soxer ponytail, but hey, c'est la vie. So let's put that there. All right, so, I mean, that's more or less what we've got. So, it's just sort of weird. You know, the people that you probably don't meet, if you're wandering around as a radical skeptic, and you feel it's your job to be better than everyone else, do you really get to hang out with the quality atheists or theists? Do you really get a chance to hang out with, you know, the archbishop that's at your place? Well, not really, because they've got you figured out, right? They know what kind of jerk you are. And even when I like you, I'll tell you, you really do end up sounding like a jerk when you're talking to those Jehovah's Witnesses. Actually, my mom did that. She was Catholic, but still, she loved to argue theology with those poor Mormons trying to convert people. And you gotta know somebody who likes doing stuff like that knows what they're talking about. somebody who's willing to take you in, make you a little tea or coffee. My mother probably would have been coffee. And talk to you for 2 hours about theology. They probably know their stuff. We're going to leave this as an ape instead of a monkey. I would like to have a tail, so it would be a monkey, but I just don't think it'll look good. So let's go ahead and fill this part in. Now I should say that I was thinking, where should I put this? In part, I was thinking I should put it in the yellow camp. I guess first I was thinking green, partially because I was doing green, partially because of the actual content of what the guy was complaining about with the denial. But, most of the people that I know are actually more libertarian, not sort of green and socialist or not green or not in that sort of environmentalists. Not really. Some of them are, but they're still more libertarian than that. So I was thinking then yellow, though I'm mostly done with those electors, and don't really think that those guys are worth bothering with, right? So those guys aren't the guys, right? Libertarians, whether or not they bathe, are not the guys who are wandering around and being really, really obnoxious with this sort of stuff. Now, they're obnoxious about plenty of things, but they're not really obnoxious about they're about denialism, right? They're not really horrible about that. You might make fun of people, but they're not really worried about it sort of politically. However, Greens a little bit, but even into more mainstream Democrats, more mainstream progressives, we'll call them. Don't want to call them liberals these days because basically they've lost all claim to being liberals, to have any sort of liberal bone in their bodies. They don't advocate anything for liberal causes anymore. They do advocate something that a liberal would agree with. It's because it's on accident. It's not on. The Democrats believe in liberty. It's on accident. It's not because they believe it should be something that's good in itself. It's good contingently, right? So they're not really liberals anymore. So I was thinking that maybe, this should go in blue instead, right? And that's actually what I'm going to put. I'm going to put this as a blue elector. The people that think everybody should believe what they believe because they heard it on John Oliver. which is basically what the Democrats think, right? If you heard it on John Oliver, then it's true, because that's where they get their news. So, that was always so funny. It was always so funny. I mean, you knew when people were doing this, right? When people started complaining about where people got their news, right? 80% of millennials getting their news from comedy programs, like The Daily Show or something like that. These guys never actually looked at those shows because they were saying, well, because of this, we have all these conservatives running around being jerks. Well, if you'd actually bothered to listen to the shows, actually watch the shows, you would have noticed that if you were getting your views from John Oliver, if you were getting your views from The Daily Show, you are not going to get something conservative, right? So it's also sort of something that you need to remember. Well, you don't need to remember that. That's stupid, but it's just something that's really funny. People yelling and screaming about something, but for the most part, if you're getting your news from edutainment programs rather than from real news sources, although I wouldn't be that attached to real news sources based on what I've seen, then you're probably left of center. Because the guys who do that are left of center. Well, it's not necessarily just because the people that do that are left of center. I mean, you have to remember they do things for the money, right? So one guy saying, oh, no, it's not me. It's all the conservatives that are doing things for the money. It's like, well, dude, you don't have any skills. You're super stupid and super boring. So please don't tell me that it's the other guys that are all doing the other thing, doing the thing that you don't want, that you're being accused of, right? I mean, you're the one who's living basically living the life that you, I forgot this asshole's name, actually. You're living the life of the people that you complain about, right? Kinds of things you do, places you go, stuff like that. And then, of course, you complain about them, right? So now, obviously, the reason why you're complaining about them is only rich people can do it, and the reason why you do it is because by what you're doing, you become rich. But actually, I'll be honest, I think I did look the guy up. He didn't start off poor. But you would generally think it would be much more common for somebody on the right who only cares about himself, the greedy little bastard, to do something, make a show that focused on, right-wing politics. Or it'd be more likely that somebody from the right would take a job criticizing the right for money based on, general left-wing beliefs about what conservatives are like, than vice versa, right? So, saying if part of being a liberal is being not greedy, right? Being idealistic, then your liberals are not going to do things like pretend to be conservatives. Reminds me of a Bones episode. My wife used to like Bones, and when I'd come visit her when I was living separately, we'd watch some of them, and there was a Bones episode where I hated Bones. Oh, it was so awful. Mostly because you can tell by the show's format who's going to turn out to have been the killer, and it never actually makes any sense, right? At the end, it never really made any sense. But there was one where they vicariously killed off Rush Limbaugh. And in the, I don't remember exactly what was going on, but I mean, it basically said that Rush Limbaugh was a pervert who liked his S&M stuff a little bit too much, and he was into S&M because he was so distraught about what he'd done to America, right? I mean, it's a load of crap, right? You shouldn't even be happy about that particular. You shouldn't even be happy about that if you hated Rush Limbaugh, right? It's just such bad pseudopsychology, and a really horrible idea about how people, especially people you disagree with, get their ideas, right? Nobody can believe anything other than I do because I'm so smart and you're so stupid, right? That's the rule. I'm so smart and you're so stupid. Remember that. That's the whole point of the skeptic, of the denialism denier, is that he wants you to know how smart he is. He's always right. He's never right at home. His wife is always right. But when he's talking to you, he's got to be right, whether or not he even gives you a chance to speak. And that is, a lot of people who think they're intelligent because they have a louder voice. They don't let other people talk while they're talking. If you were smarter, you wouldn't let him talk. I shouldn't have gendered that. Right? Women are just as bad at this, about this. And if you don't believe me, you've never met a woman. See how it works? Oh. Okay, so that's a blue card. That'll be a blue elector. These are the people who elect blue candidates. Well, I'm not sure if it's just blue candidates or not. Okay, very good. Very good. Yes, absolutely nobody watched this time. It's getting better and better. Although, I think well, I'll see what it sounds like after I'm done. Unfortunately, I can't do that. Hopefully, I got rid of some of that background noise. That is about it for Denialism Deniers. And I will talk to you next time. Bye now.